Hi guys, welcome back to the next session. That's Dr. Vivian Okoye. I'm sure we've had I don't know how to describe it. Our brains are full. That's why I asked you to get your jotters. So you write down and you don't get to forget anything. And one thing I would take away from Mrs. Ronke Posh is the money part. That is the most difficult one. Believe me, it is very difficult not to think about money when you're doing some things. But then I've realized that it's not really all about money. It's difficult, but yes, I have gotten reasons now. I understand better why it is more important to self develop. All right, we're going to welcome Mrs. Vivian Okoye. She's going to be our next facilitator.
Dr. Vivian
All right, thank you very much, guys.
Okoye is a firm believer, preacher, and executor of parenting has the root of all sustainable development. A doctor of optometry by training, Vivian's mission transcends her role as a certified child psychologist, a professional parent coach, a certified neuro-linguistic practitioner, seasoned speaker, and author. She is the founder of the Vivian Okoye Parenting Academy, Nigeria's first full-fledged online parenting school, where she provides parents with the knowledge, skills, and strategies to raise wholesome, balanced, and responsible children in these modern times without losing their serenity and productivity. Vivian is also the convener of Parents Summit Africa, one of the largest parenting conferences in Africa. In the last 5 years, this annual summit convened and mentored thousands of African parents under the same roof, with thousands streaming online. The event is set up as a platform where parents can gather to have relevant parenting conversations as well as dissect the contributions of parents, parenting, and the family unit in nation building and sustainable development. As the co-creator of the One Parenting Plan Away experience, Vivian commits consistently to training and equipping parents to plan their parenting journey in a way that offers them the necessary skills and structures for raising wholesome kids whilst building the lives of the dreams. She also runs an online support community on Facebook called the Conscious Parent Community with over 7,000 parents. Vivian has graced many stages and spoken ceaselessly on parenting and related topics. She has had many features on reputable media platforms like Channels Television Nigeria, Christian Broadcasting Network, British Broadcasting Corporation News Igbo, African Independent Television, Katan TV, Nigeria Info FM, Cool FM, just to mention a few. Her work has also been featured on national daily newspapers like Guardian Newspaper, Leadership Newspaper, and Daily Trust. She is a feature columnist on the Nigerian newspaper Parenting Column. For Vivian Okoye, investing in conscious parenting is our key to becoming better humans who change the world. Her mantra is, if we can get it right with the family, then we can get it right with the society. As such, Vivian is committed to sustainable development in Africa through parenting education. With thousands of lives transformed through her training and the never-ending testimonials from those who have had contact with her teachings, she is even set to do more, one family at a time. Vivian's track history over the years have inspired her current mission greatly. With experiences spanning across years of clinical and community practice in optometry, eye care practice regulation in Nigeria, teen mentoring and coaching, life and health counseling to vulnerable communities, one should conclude that her commitment to providing parenting education, coaching, and counseling is only an extension of patient-centered care that sees beyond the healthcare setting. She likes to refer to herself as the conscious parent and nation builder. She is happily married to a very supportive husband and together raising 2 children.
Hi.
Hello, Dr. Vivian.
Hello.
Welcome. So
Having
good to
me.
have you here. Thank you. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Good to have you.
Congratulations, by the way. Thank you for doing
Thank
this.
you.
Amazing. Congrats. It's already a
Thank
success.
you. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. We thank God. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for accepting. We're looking forward to your session. We're looking forward, so I'll let you have the floor right away. And
Okay.
start.
All
Okay.
right. Good
morning, everyone, depending on where you're joining. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Dr. Vivian Okoye. I've been introduced, and I have a small assignment this morning, a small assignment that has the capacity of shifting our lives and shifting how we do things, especially as we are predominantly, I think the predominant audience here are educators, right? So my assignment is to help you understand what self-mastery is and how you can adapt that to serve you in your personal life and in your life as an educator. And it's an amazing it's a great privilege for me to be here to be sharing this. And when Kosi sent me the topic, it actually made me to reflect, and it's quite an interesting conversation to have, because everything we do and everything we are is centered on the quality of the person that we are, right? Everything we do and everything we are, or how successful we'll become, is dependent on the quality of human beings that we are. And that is why this conversation is really, really important, right? So simply put, what is self-mastery? Right? If you can hear me, if you can see me, please let me see you in the comments. Just give me some ginger in the comments, and let's get the conversation, going. Are we together? Are we together? Thank you, Chioma. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Lola. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you so much. All right. So yeah, what is self-mastery, right? There's no need for plenty English. Self-mastery simply means, just as the word implies, mastering yourself, understanding yourself, right? Understanding who you are from inside out. And why do you need to understand yourself? Um, you need to understand yourself so that you can serve yourself better, so that you can use that knowledge to, drive yourself to get to where you want to get, right? And the interesting thing is that most times, as human beings, we are experts at other people's life. We are students of life, students of other things. So for instance, you're an educator. For most of us, maybe we're constantly researching about education, about the recent happenings in education, recent developments, what's happening, how can I improve myself as a teacher, and all of that. Most times we do this thing in our career, we do these things with other people's life, but we do not become students, ardent students of our own lives. And this is the most important thing we can do as individuals. When we become ardent students of our own selves and pay attention to who we are, pay attention to how we're showing up to the world, pay attention to how we are doing things, then we build our capacity to improve ourselves and to actually attain our goals, right? So simply put, self-mastery is an understanding of yourself. And why are we trying to understand ourselves? So that we can serve us and serve the world that we are in, the best version of ourselves, right? Because that's essentially, we're all on a journey. Anybody you meet, even if you meet Dangote, even if you meet your role model, the people you look up to, there is one thing that we all have in common. We're all trying to attain the next or the best version of ourselves, right? And one thing we have to bear in mind as we progress into this conversation is that ourselves is not cast in stone, right? So, you hear things like, this is who I am. I'm just a shy person. I can't do this, or I don't know how to do that. I'm not able to do this. This is just who I am. This is how I've known myself to be. Well, that is a fixed mindset of, self understanding, because ourself, self is not cast in stone. Self can be fluid. And when I mean fluid, I don't mean that you change at every waking morning, right? Yes, you can be grounded in certain ways, in terms of you have specific principles that guide who you are. You have specific characteristics or temperaments that guide who you are. right? But self can always be improved, can always be adapted to serve a purpose. Do you understand? To illustrate this, for instance, you can say, oh, I'm a shy classroom, I'm a shy person, right? Naturally, maybe you have, that temperament of being, introverted, so to say. But then you come into a classroom and you have to teach a bunch of kids, and you have to, pass the knowledge to them. You can't be stuck up in, oh, I'm a shy person, so there's really no, that I don't know how to come out of myself and bring this lesson to life so that these children can understand what I'm trying to say. You have to, yes, pay attention to who you are. That is, I'm a shy person. Then how can I bring this lesson to life and, communicate what I want to communicate to these children? How can I bring myself outside of my shell to make sure that I connect, that I build rapport with these children so that they can understand the message that I'm trying to teach them, right? So that's how you adapt self to serve your purpose. So the essence of what I'm trying to say is that when we're talking about self, understanding yourself, when we're talking about self mastery, right, there's no such thing as, this is who I am, I cannot change, right? The question always is, who am I, right, at this point in time, right? And how is who I am affecting where I am, right? And then you pay attention to, where do I want to go? What do I want to achieve? And then you're asking yourself, how do I adapt who I am now to help me achieve this goal? I don't know if that makes sense, right? So yes, there is a you that is you, or the you that you have always known. But this you that you have always known can always be adapted to help you achieve your goal. Because what happens when you start to say, this is who I am, I cannot change, will mean that you miss a lot of opportunities. Opportunities will come your way and you're looking at yourself and you say, oh, I've not done this before. I don't know if I can do this. So right from my childhood, I don't know how to stand in public and speak. So I don't even think I can address up to 100 people. And then you give up on that opportunity, and that opportunity would have opened doors for you, right? But the question is there a way I can adapt myself? Is there a way I can improve myself so that I can fit into this opportunity that is in front of me, right? So for instance, if you're someone who has always had stage fright, you who has always been afraid to speak in public, what are the things I can do to help me, control my nerves? What are the things? How do I stand in front of public and present? How do I present my notes to them in a way that is relatable and doesn't put me out there? Do I use slides so that the people are focusing on the slides and not focusing on me? That makes me a bit comfortable and stuff like that. You have to keep your mind open, that yourself is not cast in stone, right? Yes, we're not saying change yourself at every waking moment. We're not saying change yourself and be fluid with your principles. You have your principles, you have the values that guide you, right? But then you have to adapt who you are to serve you and to help you achieve, the things that you want to do, right? So, or the things that you want to achieve. So, one of the things I have said so far is that one question you need to ask yourself constantly is, okay, this is who I am. How has this person that I am impacted who I am today? Or how has this characteristics of me impacted who I am today? Okay, let's bring it down to being a teacher, right? So you're teaching a class, how has your personality impacted your class or your growth as a teacher, or the relationship that you have with the students that you're teaching, or the perception of your employers about you, right? How has your personality, your characteristics, or your current self impacted that? Are you happy with that? If you're happy, if you're 100% happy, then that's awesome. You're functioning in your optimum, right? But then there's always room for improvements. Then you're gonna ask yourself, is there any way of improving myself? Is there any way I can do better? Is there any way I can do things better? Do you understand? Then you also have to have a conscious idea of what you want to achieve. What kind of teacher do I want to achieve? When people meet Miss Kosi, speaking from the education aspect, when people meet Miss Kosi in school, what do I want them? What kind of person do I want them to see? What kind of impression do I want to leave in their head, right? And most times our aspirations can be found in the kind of people that we are drawn to and the people we admire. That's where the concept of role models came from, right? Do you understand? So the people you admire in terms of your career, this for the purpose of this conversation, can give you a bit of an inkling of maybe the trajectory of where you want to be headed, or the kind of teacher or the kind of educator that you want to become, right? Then you're asking yourself, okay, this is who this person is. This is who I am, right? And I want to get to where this person is. I want to become like this person. How do I, improve on myself so that I can become like this person? Bearing in mind that becoming like that person doesn't necessarily mean you have to do things exactly like the person, right? So, for instance, you have a teacher who maybe whenever she holds assembly, right, the students are connected. There are a lot of activities and stuff, she's out there, she's speaking, she's connecting with the kids. But when you hold your own assembly, you're kind of like laid back, you don't know how to really engage, you don't know how to do things. The question now is, how does she do this? What are the things she's doing? How can I do those same things in my own way, right? In my own way. We all have our unique abilities, right? But like I keep on saying, we can adapt those abilities to achieve the goals that we want to achieve, right? Does that make sense? Are we together? Does that make sense? Are we together before I move on? Sorry. All right. Eduso says yes. Yeah, we are together, right? So the ultimate question, how can I improve who I am today so that I am well on my way to getting to where I want to be, right? And there is a framework, right? So when we're talking about self-improvements, when we're talking about self-mastery, the first thing or the first line of action in the framework for self-mastery is to approach yourself with curiosity and not judgment. Most times we approach ourselves with judgment, and that is why we're not able to understand ourselves and we're not able to make progress. So, for instance, you're given a task, you know maybe you and your colleagues are given a task, and your colleague does excellently well at the task, and maybe you didn't do so well and you're giving feedback. Instead of you to pay attention to the feedback that was given to you and ask yourself what you had done that made you not perform well, most times we enter into that cycle of pity or judgment. And when you are stuck in the cycle of pity or judgment, you're operating in your lower brain. You're not able to problem solve. You're not able to think outside of the box. You're not able to be curious and like, okay, why didn't I do this thing well? Was it my grammar? Was it my approach? Does it have anything to do with my personality? How can I do things differently? When you are pitying yourself, when you are judging yourself, your brain shuts down and your brain is not able to process or to problem solve or to think outside the box. So you have to create a habit where you let go of your ego, right? You let go of your need to be perfect. You let go of your need to appear a certain kind of way and be open-minded to taking feedback from yourself, from people, paying attention to, when you make a mistake, laugh at yourself and then ask yourself, okay, why are we here? When you think about things in a certain type of way, think about it and say, okay, why did I think about this thing this way? How could I have done it differently, right? Pay attention to yourself, with curiosity, right? With curiosity. Why do I do things this way? Why do I react this way? Why do I respond this way, right? Most of the things that we even call ourselves, like some of us who are shy, and then we say, oh, I'm shy, I've always been shy. Or some of us who are not able to speak up, or some of us who have a bit of self-esteem issue, or some of us who are not able to take on challenges or dream big or think outside the box. Some of us just think, oh, this is who we are. But for some of us, it's not really who we are. Some of us is upbringing. Some of us is the environment we grew up in. Some of us is trauma, right? For some of us cannot speak up for ourselves or defend ourselves, or be out there. Maybe it's all the shut up that you ate when you were a child, all the shut up, all the beating that you ate when you were a child that is making you like that. But when you start, looking at yourself from a place of curiosity, not judgment, you're now asking yourself questions like, okay, why am I like this? Why is this really me? Or is there something that is making me act this way? Is there something that is making me feel like other people are better than me? Is there something that is making me feel like I cannot make money as a teacher? Is there something that is making me not want to improve myself as a teacher? Is that something that makes me feel like paying money for personal development is a problem? These things are issues, right? We think, oh, it's just normal, it's just natural. So for instance, you see somebody advertise a program, right, that can help you as a teacher, maybe a certificate program or a CPD program that can help you as a teacher, and your first reaction is that, they don't come again, they want to eat our money. You react that way and you think it's normal. Sometimes you need to pause and ask yourself, why do I think that this will not be useful to me? Why do I think that they want to eat our money? Sometimes, some of these things come from our upbringing and the money wounds that we have, and, how we have been brought up not to pay attention to personal development, how we have been paid attention not to, plan ourselves, plan our careers, look at the things that will benefit us in the in the progression of our careers, right? So pay attention to yourself, be curious, think about what you're thinking, think about how you are thinking. That's the first point to self-mastery, right? And when you're paying attention, if you're someone who journals, I know that Kosi is very big on journaling. If you're someone who journals, if you're paying attention and you're writing these things down, when you reflect back on them, sometimes you can pick up a pattern and it can show you, what is going on. And sometimes if you really, really start to pay attention and ask questions, sometimes you can add 1 and 2 together and you realize that, well, this habit or this lifestyle isn't really who I am. This is something that happened to me that is making me behave like this. It is what this person said to me some time ago that is making me think like this. It is this friend that I'm associating with. This is how she thinks, and that is why I'm acting this way. And that's how you pick up things that you need to let go of, things that you need to change, things that, mindset that you need to improve on or you need to change. You understand that, right? So the first framework is approach yourself with curiosity and not with judgment, right? And then embrace yourself, right? Sometimes we don't like to embrace who we are. We don't like to embrace every one of us, we have strengths, we have weaknesses, right? So we all come in the baggage of strength and weakness. Even the person that you admire the most, have weaknesses as well. But the issue is that the difference between you and the person is that they have mastered the act of magnifying their strengths and not paying so much attention to their weaknesses, or they have mastered the act of understanding how to make their strengths speak for them, and developing the skills for managing their weaknesses. So for instance, you can meet somebody who has serious anger issues. You can meet 2 people who have serious anger issues, right? one hasn't really paid attention to the anger issue. One is saying, well, this is just how I am. If you vex me, I will tell you as it be. If you make me angry, I say my mind. I know how to say my mind. That's one person. Then the other person has seen that this anger issue is a problem to them, to their career, is destroying their relationship, and has made an effort to, learn the skills to manage the anger issue, right? The anger issue is there, maybe based on their temperament. They have intense temperaments. Yeah, but this person has learned that, okay, when I start to boil inside, it's time to walk away, right? Or when I start to boil inside, it's time to say, can we have this conversation later? Or when I have to start to boil inside, it's time to take a run or take a walk, right? And you find out that these two people actually have the same issues, the same weaknesses, but one is still excelling, keeping their relationship, progressing in their career, because they have paid attention and they have embraced their weakness. They have said, okay, this is a weakness for me, but how can I improve on this weakness? What are the skills I need to, help me navigate this challenge so that it doesn't mess my growth up, it doesn't mess my success up. Do you understand? So that is, what I mean by when I say don't judge yourself, embrace it. Because when you embrace it, you can now say, when you now embrace yourself as a whole, both your strengths, both your weaknesses, you can now say, okay, we are strong here, okay, but these ones are weaknesses, we need to work on them. So how do we start working on them, right? For some of us, it might be laziness, right? So for some of us, the thing that is, keeping you where you are, or making you not to progress in your career, might just be laziness, might just be that you lack the ability to plan your time, you procrastinate a lot, you're not investing in personal development, you're not reading, you're not studying wide, so pay attention, around who you are, pay attention to who you are, and then when you're paying that attention, be curious, be accepting of who you are. Don't judge yourself as good or bad, because when you judge yourself as good or bad, it's just like, I have accepted it, this is why I'm good here, I'm bad here, and there's nothing to do about it, right? Accept yourself, and then that opens you up to asking the right questions about, okay, how do we grow, how do we improve ourselves, and stuff like that, right? I used to be very self-critical, like, and what being self-critical does to you is that it also wants to make you change yourself and become like another person, which isn't what we're talking about here. We're talking about improving on who you are so that you can achieve your goal, right? So I used to be very self-critical when I was building my career as a speaker. One of the things I was very self-critical about was that, oh, I didn't know how to speak. I couldn't, talk. I didn't know how to express myself, because then, back then, there was something about speaking that, that made it look like you had to be loud. You had to be in people's faces. You had to shout. You had to be this gengem, as in kind of speaker. So, when I saw other people speak, and I looked at myself being somebody who wanted to also, impart knowledge on people through speaking, I felt like, I couldn't do it. So I was judging myself. You're always, you don't know how to shout. You don't know how to speak loud. And that made me withdraw for a very long time, until I started the journey of understanding myself and understanding that this is who I am. And then I started asking myself, okay, how can I effectively speak as the person that I am? And that is how, some from asking that question, from improving myself, from studying other people who had the same, speaking style as me, I understood, I adapted, and I found out that, I'm that kind of person that is a conversational speaker. I'm not the, shouting kind of person. Right. And trust me, over the years, I've spoken on different stages, and I didn't have to change who I am. I just had to learn how to use my voice, and, my peculiar voice, right? And make sure that I can pass my knowledge just the way I am. And I've had people who say, oh, Dr. Vivian, I like the way you speak. Your voice is so healing for me, right? And your voice, is what made me, come to that program, because you were there and all of that. Imagine if I shrunk and like, oh, speaking is not for me. Speaking is just for people who are gang. Or imagine if I changed myself and, started, I remember one time I met a somebody to coach me to speak. I had this, in fact, I had been given a speaking engagement, and I was freaking out. So I met the person to kind of like guide me on how to do the presentation and stuff. And the person looked at me and was like, well, you don't have that power. You don't speak like that. So maybe you need to take some alcohol before you climb stage. Do you understand? So imagine if I listened to that counsel and I became that person who, before I climbed stage, I was dependent on a shot or two to get me high so that I can shout and people can, be gingered in the hall. Right. Then those people who would tell me that you have been healed, I feel your voice is so calm and it's so soothing, wouldn't have experienced this aspect of me, right? Or that aspect of me that they have experienced. So we have our unique abilities, but we need to, embrace them and then adapt them to serve us or to help us achieve the things that we want to achieve, right? So first framework we've been talking about, approach yourself with curiosity and not judgment. And this helps you ask the right question. This helps you think about how you can improve on your weaknesses, and this also helps you to maximize your strengths as a person, right? And then in the process of self mastery, you have to have a conscious choice. You have to make a conscious choice of where you are headed, right? Where you are headed, because understanding yourself, like we said in the beginning, is for the purpose of helping you ensure that you are adapting yourself, you are improving yourself with a goal in mind, with the fact that with the goal in mind that, okay, this is where we're headed. I want to become this type of educator. This is my vision for myself in the next 5 years for my career. This is where we're headed. So when you have a clear vision of where you are headed, the next question is, who do you need to become to actually achieve that? Do you understand? Are we still together? So when you have a clear vision, of where you're headed, so the start point of everything is the clear vision. Because when you have the clear vision of where you are headed, the next question now becomes, who do I need to become to actually achieve this, right? I want to become a world-class educator. I want to become an educator of international repute. I want to become an educator that can get the National Teachers Award. Who do I need to become? What kind of person do I need to become in my daily life, in my everyday life, in my career, in my, showing up in the classroom, showing up at school, showing up at work? What do I need? What kind of person do I need to become? What kind of, smaller goals do I need to set for myself in terms of personal development, in terms of career development, right? To help me achieve this. So when you're asking those questions, then point you back to yourself and the things that you need to improve in yourself. And because you're asking yourself the right question, you're gaining a better understanding of who you are and the things you need to do to become a better person that would eventually achieve those goals, right? So that's the second framework, have a clear vision of where you are headed, because that helps you be clear on the kind of person that you need to become, right? The first framework, remember, is pay attention to yourself with curiosity and without judgment, right? So you are now at that place where you understand yourself. So this is who I am. This is where we are at this point, right? But where do we need to go? We need to become an educator of global repute, okay? So based on who I am now and my understanding of myself, what are the things I need to change? What are the things I need to magnify? How do I need to put myself out there? How do I need to, blow my own trumpet and, use my strengths? And how do I need to minimize my weakness or build skills that will help me manage my weakness so that we are on a journey to become that, educator of global repute, right? I hope that makes sense. And then the final step in the framework is commit to improving the aspects of yourself that doesn't support where you want to be headed. So there is commitment. So in simple word is commitment, right? And that was why I started by saying that our self is not fixed, right? Because there is a tendency, I mean, it's the beginning of the year, we all have New Year resolutions. Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to change this, I'm going to improve this. But there's this thing that happens when, before you know it, everybody's lukewarm again and we settle into status quo and it becomes the cycle again, right? But that's where commitment comes in, because you have to understand that on this journey to becoming that educator of global repute, you're going to face self-doubt, you're going to face obstacles, you're going to meet people who are better than you, that who will make you question yourself. You're going to fall into the cycle of your normal self that you're trying to improve on again. So, but anytime you find yourself in that cycle or sinking back into that cycle or sinking back into that, um, default mode, then it's commitment that helps you keep pushing regardless of how you feel, right? And for you to be able to spot that, oh, I'm falling into that default mode again, is back to number one, paying attention to yourself with curiosity and without judgment. So it's just a cycle, right? Constantly paying attention to yourself, constantly referring back to your vision or your goal, or where you're headed, and then constantly staying committed to saying, okay, this is who I want to be known for, this is who I want to become, and I'm gonna keep on putting in the work and becoming a better version of myself so that I can achieve my goal, right? And the question to have at the back of your mind to constantly stay committed is asking yourself, does this serve me, right? I do this every morning. I wake up. At the end of the day, I reflect and I'm saying, what are the things that I did today that served me in terms of my bigger goal, bigger vision, and bigger purpose in life? What are the things that didn't serve me, right? So if you make this a habit and you're constantly asking yourself, what are the things that served me? What are the things that didn't serve me? And you're, putting in effort to, reduce the things that don't serve you and doing more of the things that serve you, then you're going to constantly improve yourself. You're going to constantly, move the wheels towards your goals. It is not a one-day journey, right? You evolve, we're evolving, and this is why I'm speaking in continuous terms. These actions, these things are lifestyle, right? Reflection, paying attention to yourself, constantly paying attention to your visions, and constantly staying committed. It is a continuous journey. It is not a one-day journey. It took you how many years? I don't know if there's anybody here who is less than 20 years. It took you over 20 years, for some of us 30, for some of us 40, to get to this point where you're saying, okay, I need to understand myself. It's not going to be one day for you to actually understand yourself, right? It's going to be series of reflection, series of events will trigger different aspects of you. But if you are constantly paying attention to who you are, if you're constantly curious, if you're constantly not judging yourself and asking the right question, you're well on your way to becoming a greater version of yourself, right? On a daily basis. I hope that makes sense. I think I would, that would be it for now, and then I'm here for your questions if you have any.
Hello. Thank you so much, Dr. Vivian. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Welcome.
It was, like you said, when you were studying yourself and you were speaking, it was like you did not have plenty power. in your voice to talk. So it sounds very calm. It's not sounding jim jim gem gem. It's not hitting like po po po. Hey, fire! You know the way we shout in church. Say, preach it, pastor. There's no, but that's something people don't understand, because it looks like, okay, are we talking about teachers having money? No. Are we talking about how you're going to want professional development, how you're applying the teaching, how you're teaching the children? I think a lot of things was something that people don't understand. And by the way, while we are just trying to wrap this up, please, if you have any questions, ask. Dr. Vivian is still here for a few minutes before we wrap up. So people don't understand that for you to be able to consistently do these things, you have to become, first of all. You have to actually become that person naturally. And that is the part that takes the work, the internal work, your mindset, renewing your mind, the way you think, the way you approach things, the way you see things is different from the way you used to see things. You don't get it. I was doing a reflection at the end of this year and saying, okay, how did I improve? How did I grow? And funny enough, my biggest part, the biggest aspect of my growth is in that emotional intelligence and in that approach to things, because I just entered a new position. It's a management position. It's busier, it's more hectic, and I'm dealing with more personalities. I'm interacting with more people now. But I realized something. I was telling somebody that knew me from where we were working together before as teachers. Now we're still working together. I told her, do you remember that when I was in the classroom, that my assistant was acting, doing something? Do you remember the way I would shout? We went to our head of school's office. How many she could, once she tries it, I give it to you, give me, I give you back. Don't try it. As they once you start, even our moderator now, she's laughing. I remember when I said she was my assistant one time. She came late or did something. I started from beginning. I'll just wash you, finish you. But now it's more or less like I can be looking. Oh God, I said the Holy Spirit is amazing. And honestly, self-mastery, coming to that point where you realize, is it really that important?
Yeah.
And the truth is, a lot of times people go about like, oh, I like the way she's so this, she's so that. It was not like that before. It was not like that.
Yeah.
It's that paying attention and that working on it. Somebody said this needs a lot of meditation. It sure does. It does. It's like you take yourself, you know, the way when we watch these videos, they click on something and then the screen goes bold and you see, it's like bringing out yourself.
Yeah.
Looking at yourself like, this is not good, I'm taking this out, I'm adding this, I'm bringing. And one of the things I used to do, for me, that was the biggest tool that helped me. I used to design Google Forms and send to people and say, tell me, what do you think about me? What am I good at? What am I bad at? My weaknesses, and they will send it back. I'll put it on spreadsheet and look at it. Now, it does not mean that they were always right, or it does not mean that they were that I took everything and felt bad, like you said, self-critical and wanting to be.
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Because
yes, go ahead.
Now this also points to that fact of, you know, not judging, because if you want to do this, if you want to do this Google form thing, then you have to also be careful not to take things people say to heart. Because there's a feedback that can come back and you're like, hey, this is how this person sees me, or hey, I'm finished, and then you're stuck in that cycle. So we really have to come to that place of detaching ourselves from, you know, what we think about ourselves or how we see ourselves, and be more centered on, you know, being curious. Okay, so why is it like this? So how do I use this information, instead of, oh, this is how I am, you know, and you're stuck to it, and you're probably there for the next 6 months, you're feeling like, oh, I'm finished, this is how I am. Do you understand? So if you're gonna design Google form, I have to put that disclaimer, because to handle it, not everybody can, right? Because you can send a Google form to me and I'm say, okay, honestly, this is what I think, and then you take it personal and it becomes a problem for you or even for both of us.
Okay, and somebody says this is a bit more a higher brain function. Yes, because some people want to just do. That's sitting. That part is the harder part. It's actually the harder part. Thank you so much, Dr. Vivian. Thank you. We need to be wrapping this up so that we can take
The
a
next,
break. Yes,
okay.
before the next one is at actually at 1:20.
All
But
right.
okay, so I think we can just do a couple minutes more. I can't see any questions at my end though.
Okay.
Yes, Tokwasi, I don't know if you can see any
Yeah, I
question.
can. No, I can't.
You
There are no
can?
questions here. Yes.
No
Okay.
questions.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much, ma'am. Thank you. That was very enlightening.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank
Was
you, thank
I?
you.
I think for me, everything I've learned today from the first session, from the opening, you have to be very conscious of. You have to know yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot give from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So you really have to know and study yourself and know what your strengths, your weaknesses, and where you work on. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's a lot of thinking. Just like you said, this course is like bringing out yourself and then putting it on a spreadsheet and then, oh, this is me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some things you look at them, they are bad, you feel bad, and but then you have to just be strong and know that you have to work on these things to be better. So,
Mm-hmm.
thank you
We
very much, Dr.
and
Vivian.
it's any consolation. We all have the good and evil side of us, right? We all
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, we
weaknesses,
do.
right? I had to put that out because we all have what makes other people, some people look better than others is because they have worked on their weaknesses or they have shielded it so much that you don't really get to see it. So, and that's also a consolation for us to help us know that, well, it can actually be worked on, right? It can actually be improved on, right? So, that's it.
Dr. Vivian, I want to say something more like a question and a comment. So just
Okay.
give me a little bit of an insight. Now, you
Okay.
said something about while we talk about our weaknesses, we should also remember that we have our strengths. Now, I have a question for you because I think I had this challenge. I
Okay.
had a challenge of seeming to accept my strengths. What do I
Mm-hmm.
mean? There were times I would ask this particular boss that I really loved. We had a very great relationship. She was amazing. I loved her, still love her
Mm-hmm.
till tomorrow, and we're really in touch. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
ask her things like, I'll ask her things like, okay, what do you think about my teaching? Am I a good teacher? And all of that. Okay, I'm hearing there's a question from Ifoma. I can't see the question at my end. Please, can you, even if you can, maybe retype the question or something so that I can see the question. So she will tell me, you're good, Kosi. What do you want me to tell you? You're good. But I felt like she was just saying you're good just to tell me off.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned that thing to somebody once, and she was saying something that it might just be that quest you have for excellence. You have a thing for being an excellent person.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed I found it difficult to accept. Like, it was as if I was always on whatever it is I was doing. I was looking for a way to almost make it perfect. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not yet, I don't know. People might say, oh, you're good, you're this, but it just didn't feel good.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. That makes sense, and that's a common phenomenon for perfectionists, right?
Okay.
I am one, so I can relate, right? We are very self-critical, and what happens is that you do something and you're looking for the flaws, right? So
Yeah.
somebody who isn't perfectionist put in a little effort and be like, oh, I actually did so well, right? Or this is an improvement on what I have done in the past. But a perfectionist is saying, okay, looking for the errors, right? And always, looking for what are the holes. Is it perfect yet? Are we there yet? But then that is a trauma. I don't want to
Response.
go. There is a trauma response, but I don't want to go deep because it leads us to a whole different conversation, right? It's a trauma response, right? Especially coming from childhood where we were expected to be perfect. So our childhood
Okay.
didn't give room for mistakes. Mistakes were not seen as a normal occurrence in life, right? So most of us grew up like being very self-critical. Every little thing we did was judged. Every little mistake we were beaten, we were punished, right? So we're now in that avoidance mode where, oh, mistakes become a problem. We don't really look at we're not open to making mistakes, right? When we make mistake, we judge ourselves. When we make mistake, we're thinking about it for 3 days. What people think, how would they respond, how they see us. We now look like a failure to them and stuff like that. But the honest truth is, mistakes are normal, which was why in the conversation I said, when you fall short, laugh at yourself and pick the lesson. Let go of the ego. That ego is your idea that you need to be a certain type of person, you need to appear a certain type of way, right? Be in the here and in the now. What are we doing now? Have I given it my all? How did it come out? This is how it came out. Did we do well? Thumbs up. Didn't we do well? Okay, fine. Where are the holes? What do we need to improve on the next time? So that's being curious and being, growth minded, so that, you're improving, you're constantly improving, but also with an understanding that, well, mistakes can happen. You understand? So that comes,
Okay.
the trauma response really is a trauma.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay, I have
sometimes.
somebody here who is okay. Yes, very
Yeah,
quickly.
I
Yes,
think
go ahead.
sometimes this trauma response, let me not say a lot of teachers, some people project it on the children.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
unconscious.
definitely.
Now,
We project it on
most times they
everybody.
don't even do it consciously. It's
Yeah.
just an unconscious thing, like you're not meant to make a mistake. You just go crazy when a child makes a simple mistake. So I
Yeah.
think we really, really need to make this conscious effort. You have to just like someone said, or Mrs. Because I think you're the one who said when you go back home, go over your day and
Mm-hmm.
then look at what you have done well and what you need to improve on. So I'm still learning how to do that. Most times I just want to come back home, have my
And
bad, lie down, eat, and then sleep and just move on to the next day. So what I'm trying to see if I can try as much as possible when I'm lying down before I sleep of 5-10 minutes, go over
yeah.
my day and see
Reflect.
how well I've
Can
done for the
I
day.
give
Reflect.
us can I give us I have a framework for that. And it's something that
Okay,
is
so Dr. Vivian, before you go ahead, I want you to have so that you sort of some
okay.
he
I,
apparently asked that to throw more light on higher brain function and shutting down. There was something he said about the higher
okay.
brain function and
Yeah,
shutting down.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
another, yes, and
Okay. Is there
okay, you
any
recap. Yes, and the last one, how do we overcome this childhood trauma? I think that one is a lot deeper. I think it's a lot deeper. I just know that for me personally, I'll just say this before I let you have the floor to finish up. I know that one of the things for me, I don't know, it helps me, it may not help everybody, is telling myself I am enough.
mm-hmm.
I am enough. That affirmation, I'm enough. I'm okay. I'm okay because you're okay. I had to, that particular I mean, just that sentence,
Mm-hmm.
it changed a lot for me. It had to start, it's okay, it's okay. And then it helped me start doing something. When I don't do something well, I stopped taking it as, oh, I've fallen from maybe the pedestal or the high place where I was like the best, whatever it is. It has made me stop that entirely. Like now I can learn from anybody, I can enter, you can correct me, you can tell me, and just that affirmation. I had to meditate on that sentence of
Yeah.
enoughness. So I'll let you take that from there.
Okay, so what I said about higher brain function, I think I mentioned that when I was speaking about paying attention to yourself um without judgment and curiosity. Correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, right, I would break it down in a most laymanly way. So basically, let's say you have two brain. There's actually four parts of the brain, but for the purpose of this question, you have two brain segments. So you have the upstairs brain and the downstairs brain, right? And the downstairs brain is the emotional brain, and the upstairs brain is the logical brain, right? So when you're in the downstairs brain, the emotional brain, the survival brain, you're not thinking logically, you're not able to problem solve. And this is what happens to us when we enter into that pity mode, when we enter into that judgment mode, when we're in the fear mode, when we are in the ego mode. Do you understand? That was when I mentioned it. Like if you look at yourself and you feel like, oh, I'm finished. Oh, they don't like me again. Oh, they think I'm a failure. You're functioning in your lower brain, right? And you're
Okay.
stuck in the emotions. You're not able to think logically. So that was why I was saying, look at yourself, assess yourself with curiosity, not attached to what you're finding, not attaching your worth to what has happened. Do you understand? Okay, I failed at a task. Yes, you failed at a task. It doesn't mean you are a
Your
failure.
failure.
When you take it personally and feel like I'm a failure, I cannot do anything right, you're going deeper into the downstairs brain. You're becoming emotional, and you're stuck in that cycle of I am a failure, I am a failure, I am a failure. You're not you're not using your upstairs brain. You're not going to come out to the logical brain where you can now think, okay, we failed at this task, so how do we solve this problem? So that's why when people are in an emotional state, they need somebody who is thinking logically to come and move them out of there. So that's what you do to children, where if your child is throwing a tantrum and they're in that space where they're crying, they're if you can ask them a question that can get them to think, you're well on your way of moving them out. Because what that question does is that the question makes them pause, and then their brain moves to the upstairs brain where they're thinking, okay, what just happened here? Why did this happen? And then you move them out of that, and you're getting them to where they're thinking logically, right? It's the same cycle. It happens to us as well. When you're in that state of emotion, you're using your downstairs brain. So asking yourself questions can actually be a way of moving yourself to the thinking brain and the logical brain, so that you can then problem solve and get answers to your problem. I don't know if that answers the question, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think that
Yeah.
does it for
So
that
that's
one.
saying it in a laymanly way. I didn't want to
1,
bring any scientific anything
2,
to the
2
conversation.
deep. Yes.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
So Kwasi, we can't hear you. I don't know why. Check your.
It's low. Your volume is low. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
That's come down again.
it's still very low. It's still very low. Raise the volume.
Okay, let me just. What about now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, so I was saying the last part where she talked about is amazing because it relates to the next Coach Didi's because
Oh,
the thing,
yes,
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 it
yes,
does.
yes. Coach Gigi
It
is talking
relates to
about
Coach Didi,
stress, mental health, and all of that.
yes, and
Because I'll
burnout.
be honest with you, Dr. Vivian, we're going to talk because I know you're really busy now. I think we're going to work on, I think we need to do something because there's another teacher asking, how do you overcome childhood trauma? I think that's a lot deeper. And I think it's time for us to organize something to help teachers so that we know how the way we tell children, look at your head. Is that we are the truth is our natural way of discipline because we feel it works faster is to actually to shame, is to use threats,
You know,
is
you
to
know,
use
you know,
yes,
because a lot of people, because a lot of schools now do not permit beating, right? Do not permit.
yes, yes.
So we think, oh, we're not beating, but we're
Mhm.
going into more toxic patterns, right? Yes, we're not beating, we're not hitting, we're not punishing, but then we're now using toxic words. We're now doing
Yes.
passive aggression. We're now ignoring, which is also unhealthy for the children because they look up to you. So when my teacher is not my friend, that means I'm a bad person. Why is Miss
Uh-huh.
at me? Why is Miss Kosi not talking to me? You understand? So those are the things, and all of this comes from our own inability to actually handle our own emotions as well. So I agree with you. I think that that's a conversation that teachers need to have because beyond parents, teachers also have a very great influence on who children become. Yeah. So what happens in school is also very, 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 very important. Yes.
Okay,
Can, can,
yes, go ahead.
a quick you know step on how to overcome childhood trauma, right? um
Yes.
Now it is childhood trauma. It's like, in fact, I'm studying it as a master's degree, so that is like a bunch of my projects on in my masters.
Uh,
Most of my research is
okay.
on that, so I'm just saying that to tell you that it's not something that it's not a conversation that we can finish right now. But the first thing that you need to understand is to actually accept that something happened to you, right? Accept that your childhood wasn't perfect. Accept that I'm not saying that your parents are bad. I'm not saying they are
Yeah.
evil. I'm not saying, and when we accept, we're not saying that our parents are evil. They did the best they could with the knowledge they had at the time. But accept that, okay, there's something wrong about this treatment I got as a child, about this conditioning I got as a child, about these things that were said to me as a child. Do you understand? And some of the things that help childhood trauma are the same things that we have talked about in self-mastery, right? It still comes down to that curiosity of understanding that, for instance, you're in a class, a child does something, and you can feel it pounding in your heart. Like it moves you from 0 to 100 in a split of a second. You want to kill them, even though you know that you cannot kill them. That's the time to pause and ask yourself, why is it that this thing this child did
It's
triggered me
getting to
so
me so much. Yeah.
understands? Does this have anything to do with my unmet needs? Why do I need respect so much? Why is it that when somebody disrespects me, I want to, it's almost like, is my worth tied to their good morning or tied to their doing what I told them to do? Do you understand? So
Yeah.
these are the tiny little bits of details. It starts from accepting. It starts from paying attention to the things that are triggering you, and then moving on to, okay, how can I handle these triggers, which is also a huge conversation on its own. Do you understand? And what Kosi said is very valid. Coming to that point where you know that you're worthy, regardless of if a child does something, regardless of if your class is functioning perfectly, regardless of if you got the teacher's award, regardless of if your management accept that you're doing your best or not, you are worthy. You don't need any other thing to be worthy. You don't need a perfect career to be worthy. You don't need to be a perfect person to be worthy. Just that you're a human being, you're born, you're alive, you're functional, you are a worthy entity, right? Every other thing that happens, every other thing that comes your way, approach it with curiosity. What is going on here? Am I the problem? Is this person the problem? How can we solve it? That's
Questions.
simple. Just
Questioning moves you from the
ask yourself,
lower brain.
what is going on? Why am I struggling with this child? Am I the problem? Do I need to improve on myself? Is there something I haven't taught to this child? Is there a skill I can teach this child so that we get along better? Is there a way I can improve myself so that this what this child does doesn't really get to me, so much? How do we navigate this challenge? And you're asking yourself those questions, your answers will come. And we all have it inside of us. The problem is that we're not asking questions. We're just fixed. Oh, this child is very disrespectful, and we leave it at that. Oh, they're not giving her home training, and we leave it at that. Oh, my head teacher hates me. She doesn't like anything I do, and we leave it at that. Do you understand? But if we're
Yeah.
asking questions with curious minds, and our goal is actually to navigate and solve that problem, the answer is inside of you. It's not me that will tell you, because I'm not in your position. Do you
Dr.
understand?
Vivian, 2023, make room for us. I am coming back to you. No, seriously, I'm not just saying this I need you to organize a class for us, because here's what it's going to do. When you're a parent, you face your 1, your 2, or your 3 children. But when you bring your child into school, we have 300, 200 children with all of us as teachers. And some days when they are running around, we are mad. We just shout at all of them and say, will all of you get inside? All of you, look at all of you. This child is very something. If I call your mother now, your mother will start. I know everything we say. I know how we are. So the truth is this, how we need to, I want us to go inside. I want us to go inside. I'm looking at maybe Easter, a program where we enroll a week, 2 weeks course, and then we just go at it with you. I know that these courses with you are a bit expensive, but if we can pay in a group, so I'll put it out, Easter program, we usually have about 1 to 3 weeks of holiday. Yvonne is already clapping. She's game. Yes, we'll organize it. I'll put it out in the group. Once we're ready, give me a fee, please. I think I'm not joking. I'm saying it for me because I've noticed something else. Now, this is my own, and this may be for 1 or 2 other people. When I'm in school, I think somehow, either because of professionalism, I've mastered it to the point I'll just look at the child and keep quiet. But you know what happens to me when I get back home? My own children, I don't take it from them.
You point it on
If
them.
they try it, it's like I carry all the one. It's not how all these children behave in school. That's how you want to wow.
What's happening to you? What's happening to you is fear projection, right? So you see those children, and somewhere in your head, there's something wrong with their parenting.
Exactly.
There's something wrong with their parenting. There's something their parents are not doing well. I can't afford this for this to. I can't afford for my children to behave this way. So that's the mindset you're going home with. And then little thing your child does is now looking like you want to become like that child. No,
literally, I'm not joking. I actually think of another child. I'll be like, this thing. That is how. That's it. That is exactly what I think of. Survey is already asking, make it virtual. It will definitely be virtual. Yes, it's actually not fair. I know that. And the truth is, if I'm being real and I look at my own children, they're actually good children that want to please you. really want to please you. So it will definitely be virtual. Dr. Vivian is in the UK currently doing her master, so definitely it will be virtual. So we're looking at it. April Easter program. Get ready, everybody. We'll just put a few finishing touches and we'll put out the information. Tokwase, I'm sorry, I'm going to take the baton from you to wrap up. I really need to wrap up. The next session is at 1:20. I'd hoped we'll be able to get a full 20-minute break, but it doesn't look like it. So it's 10 minutes in the next. You're really game. Don't worry, I'm game too. As soon as we can put the final touches to it, I'll put out the information. So thank you so much, Dr. Vivian. Thank you. Thank you. My heart is overflowing, and I believe we're going to bring a solution to teachers like never before. If they can deal with it from inside to become, it will be easy for them to hit their goals and hit their targets. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vivian. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, please,
guys.
remember, it's the next link, okay? This link is for Dr. Vivian. For Coach Didi, we use the next link that has been posted. Thank you very much, and see you by 1:20. Bye, guys.